I go to this house.
You on I-29 South for 73 miles. Welcome to Iowa.
Jesus Christ. I got roadside. I think my roadside's up already. Paid this bitch off.
I always get second, then third, just come.
That was a low budget movie too. They put all kinds of money in the other one. That fucker sucked. Second
A long time.
You grew up watching.
Or if you're known in Argentina, I don't know how many people come in and out of Argentina.
Want to take a guess what the best one?
I don't know what I eat. I might do airborne. How much do I need for that? 90 and 80.
It is a just talking so much.
You think I'm adding something?
The horses.
Horses.
Oh, look, a chicken. Go. Oh, look, a wolf.
Where's your chicken?
Got a wolf over there?
Where? No, I don't see
Oh,
it.
the fucking guy at work, I got fucking attacked by a bobcat. It should be a hidden prey in that shit a while, so I'm in the fucking really basement in there. Shit, fucking wet or
They got the cellar. Okay.
fuck. It won't be that picture for us. All fucked up. Couple car side of the goods. Good steep. Guy that used to work with.
What was that? We were just on I-80.
Continue on US.
They have it set up just like it would have looked, similar to what it would have looked like then. It's gonna, when you walk in there, it's gonna look like a house from my.
Dad, we're going in. We kind of got to squeeze a little bit of people in here.
Yeah, here we sit. That's Jesse. Yeah, that's Jesse.
Gotta chill out.
That's where you set them up so they're here.
I'm so sorry. There's so many people. So this is gonna be kind of I'm gonna give you guys the whole story. Or here, and once we're done with the tour, you guys will get time to free roam the house. You can look around, take pictures, investigate if that's what you're into. Yeah. So we'll start. I'm Kelly.
I'm Nico.
Yeah. All right. So this house was built in the 1880s. The Moores didn't move in until 1903. So the Moores only lived here 9 years before they were murdered. Their story starts June 9th, 1912. Joe and Sarah Moore had 4 kids, Paul, Boyd, Herman, and Catherine. So that day was just a regular day for them. They were going up to the Presbyterian Church, which is just a couple blocks that way. It is still standing and still in use today. It is one of 5 churches we have here in town. So they were doing a youth program, kind of showing off what the kids had learned in Bible school. While they were there, the Moore kids were playing with the Stillinger girls, Ina and Lena. Ina and Lena were supposed to be spending the night at their grandparents' house that night, but at the time, the city was in an argument with the power company, and the power company had shut off all the street lights. So the girls didn't want to walk alone in the dark, so they decided to come home with the Moores, which sadly meant it was a wrong place, wrong time situation for them. The program ended about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and the Moores came straight home afterwards. We're pretty sure that they went straight to bed, being as it was pretty late, especially back then. So then the next morning, about 5 a.m., the neighbor Mary Peckham, who lived over in this house, this is her original house, she knew the Moores pretty well, living that close to them. She even considered the children to be her grandchildren. Her daughter was not able to have kids, so she kind of took a liking to the more children. So when she looked out about 5 a.m. and noticed they weren't up doing their chores, she found it to be a little weird. The Morse had chickens, cows, and a couple horses, so she decided to call over. When nobody answered the phone, she just assumed they were sleeping in, knowing they had been out late the night before. So she just went right back to doing her chores. Once she finished her chores, it was closer to 8 o'clock, she looked out again and saw they still weren't up. Well, at this point, she started to get pretty worried. So being neighborly, she came over, let out the chickens, fed them, and then came and knocked on the door. When nobody answered, she decided to come in the house, and that's when she found all 3 of the doors to be locked. This was pretty unusual for Valisca. Valisca was one of those towns everybody just left their doors unlocked. If somebody needed something, they were able to come right in. So at this point, Mary called Ross, which was Joe's younger brother. Ross came down, found a skeleton key that fit the parlor door here. Ross came in the house. Mary stayed on the porch. Mary just had this feeling that something wasn't right. So when Ross came in, he went straight to the bedroom back there, and that's where he found the first 2 bodies. They were covered in a sheet, and the sheet was covered in blood. He came running out of the house. He told Mary, call the police, call the doctor, call everyone, something horrible has happened. That was back when they had operators. So word spread pretty quickly. Over 100 people showed up before the police could get here. And these people were in the house. They were touching things, passing around the murder weapons. Some people were even touching bodies and taking bone fragments as souvenirs. Some women who knew Sarah knew her to be a clean, neat, pretty tidy person, and knew she'd be pretty upset with that many people in the house and it being dirty. So they even proceeded to try to clean up the blood. Once the police arrived, it was 10 o'clock, and they realized how many people were in the house, and they knew they were going to need some extra help getting them out. So they called in the National Guard. The National Guard came in, got everybody out, but then had to stand around the outside of the house because people were still trying to get in through whatever way they could. Once everybody was cleared, though, they were able to take account what was going on in the house. They noticed all the windows and mirrors were covered with sheets, clothing, really whatever could be found. So they did find the murder weapon leaned up against the wall in that back room, and then not too far from it was a slab of raw bacon. So Sarah cured her own meat, and she put it in the closet that's back there because the cured meat, it's got to be stored in a cool, dry, dark place. And her pantry in the kitchen has a window. So their theory is whoever covered up the windows and mirrors might have just knocked it out of the closet while looking for things to do so with. The back there is where the Sillinger girls were found. Sadly, they were unrecognizable. The only way they could be identified were their names or their Bibles on the bedside table. Sadly, their mother had called that morning to see when they were coming home, and the operator was the one to inform her that they couldn't connect the call because everybody had been killed. So some of the other evidence that they found downstairs was there was a whole plate of food set at the kitchen table, which meant the killer was in the house for a decent amount of time. At least long enough to make a meal, plate it, sit at the table, but then not a single bite was taken from it. And then by the back door, there was a bowl of bloody water, and that's when they suspected the killer washed their hands. Some of the first few suspects were maybe it was a homeless person, or maybe it was a robbery gone wrong. But you think if it was a homeless person, they probably would have ate the meal. Or had it been a robbery, something would have been missing. But nothing was missing. Even Joe's wallet was still upstairs, still full of cash.
So when you go upstairs, the first room you come to is the parents' room. Sarah slept closest to the wall, and Joe slept closest to the dresser. So Sarah was the only one to be hit with the blade of the axe, and there's a few different speculations to that. One being that she just woke up while Joe was getting hit, and the killer just flipped the axe over to get her. Because the axe that was used was one of the big two-handed, had a blunt end on one side and a sharp end on the other. And then Joe was hit over 30 times, so almost double what everybody else was hit. Some people think it was because he was the main target. He was the one the killer had a vendetta against. Others believe that it was just simply because he was the man of the household. He was the biggest threat. There's a mark above the dresser in the parents' room as well. It used to be a bit smaller, but people like to poke at it. And then the next room you come to is the attic. So we like to warn people, the attic has dolls. Some people find them creepy. And then if you go in the attic, please watch your head. There are screws sticking out. They hurt a lot. So in the attic, they found cigarette butts. They think that maybe the killer had hid out in the attic waiting for the Moores to come home. They didn't have DNA testing at the time for the cigarette butts, and by the time they got DNA testing, the cigarette butts had already been lost. The Moors just used it for storage, and it was behind Joe and Sarah's closet, so they didn't really look in there very often. And then the next room you come to is the children's room. All 4 of the Moore children slept up there because on the day-to-day, the Moors rented out this bottom room to passerbyers for some extra cash. There's a mark above the twin-size bed in the children's room, and that's the one that led authorities to believe that the killer was left-handed due to the upswing of the mark. So some of the suspects, Valisca at the time was a little over 2,000. We're even smaller now with a population of a little over 1,000. So at one point everyone was a suspect, and it was as simple as you were mad at your neighbor, you were automatically a suspect. But we talk about the 2 big ones, the senator and the reverend. So the senator was Senator Frank Jones. He worked with Joe in the farm implement business for roughly 9 years. And then Joe decided he wanted to start his own rival business and did it literally across the street. Some people had heard them verbally arguing, like kind of out in the street, but had never seen anything physical. So some people believe that maybe the senator had hired. There you go.
Well, that's right.
Not gonna lie, I want to sleep in one of these
Hell, what if I shoot upside down?